Our next guest, and I've heard Larissa speak before, and you're in for a treat, is Larissa Mills. She is a mental skills coach and a program coordinator for Team Canada, founder of iParentgen.com. We're going to have to put that in the box, Lois, and digital and mental wellness educator for athletes. Her experience arises from being an educational behavioral consultant, behavior and policy writer. Her research on cell phones, and here we have this theme of social media and how it's impacting our youth and then impacting everybody. Her research on cell phones and addiction revealed to her that there were behavioral changes happening in sports and in education. Larissa created a hybrid school that teaches mental skills for athletes to become unstoppable, called the Mental Game Academy for all kids. Larissa Mills is committed to keeping athletes healthy, happy, and in sports. And she's going to speak to us today. Are sports sustainable for coaches, athletes, and our kids? So please welcome Larissa Mills.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm just going to switch over. Can you guys see the screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome. So thank you. You got quite a lineup here of impressive people. I'm like crying. I'm happy. It's just wonderful to see that we have all these amazing powers that be to make change. And I'm not worried for my kids. I'm really quite emotional. I find it very impressive. All right. So Mental Game Academy. So I'm here today to talk about whether or not sports are sustainable. They completely are, but we have to know where we're at in terms of how and why are the refs leaving? Why are the coaches leaving? Why are kids leaving? Why are we having less participation in sports on a global scale? So I had to think about this and do the math, and I had to put it all together. And then I had to get the medical science, and then I had to get the Mental Health Association statistics. I had to get the Pediatric Society statistics. What was happening? So we started to research it. I started to put it together. And it seems to be that since 2007, we've seen a big change in sports. And that was when the phones were introduced. Is there a link? We now know in 2022 and 2019 was the big year before the pandemic that we saw how phones were changing the way we process work habits, discipline, and how we are actually changing our neuroscience and how we're changing our habits. I watched a game the other day, and I watched a mother who screamed down the football field as their team was already winning 42-7 and screaming after her kid to score and making a show of that. And then she yelled at the ref. And then the ref he mediated very well. But I just think that sometimes I think we need to do some re-education. And there was this thing that came up in my head. Can we educate in a three-prong approach our way out of this funk in sports? And I think we can, because I'm doing it. Association, by sport, by level, by programs, by bringing people on board. In the Mental Game Academy, I have an incredible team around me. They're more talented than me. They're amazing people. And we're all here for the same mission. Now, one of the biggest stats that we have, and we've collected, is that by 16 years old, 12,000 hours to 15,000 hours is approximately what a child spends on a phone. Now, here's the kicker. By 40 years old, a person will have been on for almost 20. So that is causing gaps in children or youth ladder of development. So my background's in psychology. My master's is in how the brain learns. And right now, our youth are not learning effectively. And not only are they not learning effectively academically, they're not learning how to socialize, what etiquette is. They're not learning how to use the resilience. They're using their phones to critically think for them. There are many youth out there that I have met and have on our teams who are remarkable human beings. And I'm so glad that they're leading the other kids along. So we go into the teams and to associations, and we use this three-prong approach because we know the statistics say that refs are leaving. 33% or more a year on average per sport. 57% of the refs say that it's abuse from coaches and parents. And after me, I'm in an arena, I'm in a pool, I'm in a football. I mean, I go and I watch my athletes. My kids are all involved in sports. I coach sports. I can safely say that in my environment, in my culture, I don't allow it. It doesn't happen. So I try and make sure that we're all happy, we're educated, and we all are well skilled to handle anything that comes our way. And that's sort of what we're aiming to get at. But why are kids quitting at 13 instead of 16 when that was the big drop off? Well, a lot of the research is saying it's because children are coming with less tools in their toolbox. And this is where we come in and provide them with steps to mental skills, steps to emotional intelligence. Now, we know that 83% of children are addicted to their phones by the age of 18, and that is a stat from 2019, by the way. So that's what we also have to consider. What is the constant phone use doing to the brain and to our skills and habits? Well, I can tell you that one of the ones that I'm most concerned about is right here, is their critical thinking skills. They're not able to get the confidence to speak up. They're not able to get the confidence to manage their way out of bullying. They're not even sticking up for friends anymore. They're not even able to make friends and do as much socialization as they used to when we look at the new statistics and from pediatric societies. Their resilience is down. They're not able to handle pressure as well. They're not able to handle the feedback from coaches and the pressure from parents. And I see that pressure daily. I'm with these kids a lot during the weeks and for hours during our growth sessions to talk about these things and educate them. And that is the two top things. Abuse of coaching behavior is a problem, but it's also, we're not preparing our kids properly yet, but phones are one of those major factors that are contributing to why we're actually seeing a 16-year-old who has the emotional development of 14-year-old. So we are looking at changing how we educate. And one of the things that we're doing here at the Mental Game Academy is trying to ditch the social media, get them down to one app instead of 5 apps, because basically every night they go from TikTok to Instagram, YouTube, back to TikTok, back to Instagram, back to YouTube. And this is something, and then they're on their Snapchat and they're taking photos. And let me tell you, kids, after 10 o'clock, nothing good's happening. Just like we say, nothing good happens after midnight with adults. Well, nothing really good happens after 10 o'clock in a child's bedroom when they're home alone or in their rooms alone. So we have different routines and screen routines that we have for families, for different athletic families. So all phones are on the main floor. They're not allowed in their rooms. They can't go to sleep with them and they can't wake up with them. And that's really for their own brain benefit, their moods, their energy. And we're trying to prevent phone addiction here. So we know that this is collected evidence from 4 pediatric societies that I use. So Canadian, American, British, and Australian. But the one thing that I want to point out on this page is 1 in 6 kids are medicated. And they don't need to be. Many of the pediatricians are very focused on, let's build these skills up in the kids. Let's decrease their phone time and let's get these kids out there socializing. And for me, I want them to find something they love. Find something do you like archery? Well, you can be an amazing hockey player and make Team Canada, which these girls are, but let's find other things you like. And it seems to help with that balance. But it's almost like we're using phones to find our other thing. And that's not healthy either. There is a downward spiral of participation in sports across, but what's really breaking my heart is the amount of girls that are dropping out and not even re-signing up. I'm talking 26 to 36% less girls are signing up in a sport each year. That is a lot higher than the 19, I think 16% for boys. So here's a cycle. And this cycle is the athletic cycle with no change. If we don't intercept, if we don't interfere, if we don't educate, this is just a downward spiral cycle. So the associations who don't have the strong board members who want to make these changes or are doing what's best in a value system, and I know Jeff and I had this conversation, this is where a value system is so vital for all of youth development in your programs. Coaches, we have declining numbers, but when we actually go and I train, these coaches at these elite levels and even grassroots levels, we see that they just need to feel a little bit more equipped. They just need some more connective tools. They need some more strategies. And that's what we're here for, to help them teach their athletes mental skills and emotional intelligence, leadership, coping mechanisms. That's us. And then they go off and they can implement them into their practices and into their games.